Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Carlos Garcia and today I'll be walking you through my game engine. It's still a work in progress, so some features might not be as expected and should be changed soon. First of all, I'll walk you through the navigation bar at the top. As you can see, there are multiple buttons that you can press. File, edit, assets, game object, component, panels, and tools. File allows us to handle the scene creation. Edit, work in progress. Asset allows us to create either a folder, a new folder, a Lua script, and material, which allows us to create one of the following materials, which we'll showcase later on in the video. Game object, work in progress, although some things can be handled by the hierarchy system. Component is still work in progress, although some things can be handled by the inspector window. Panel allows us to hide and show, well, either hide or show the windows, as we can see, the spectre, lighting, material, basically every single window that's visible right now. And then tools, it currently allows us to set the theme. So for instance, I'll use this one for blind color users. So the the interface is has been developed using in Ingi in UI, and as we can see, this is the recommended distribution, which is pre-configured and is set by default. So the hierarchy window allows us to have a clear-cut distribution of the entities. That also accounts for the parenting and children. So the entities will be displayed in a tree setting where the children will be nested inside the parent. And also, as I mentioned previously, this window also allows for the handling of, in some sort of way, the entities. We'll see that later on. Then there's the viewport that allows us to see the rendered scene, basically the world. The scripter allows us to, well, not yet, but it will allow us to edit Lua scripts within the game engine, so that we don't have to use external IDs like Visual Code or Sublime Text or whatever. We can handle everything within the game engine. Then the inspector, as you probably can imagine, it allows us to handle the configuration and properties of each individual entity. We'll see that later on, but it's just things like name, tag, and component. Then the lighting window allows us to set the scene of the, well, the not the scene, the skybox of the scene. We'll see that later on as well. Then the project window allows us to visualize the directory folders and files that are set not by default. The only thing set by default is the root folder that is static and cannot be changed. Then the console obviously outputs logs for the user to know what's going on basically under the hood. And then the material inspector allows the user to change real time for instance, the textures of each material, the tiling, the offset, some other factors like roughness and whatever. So For starters, we'll begin by, well, if we want to work on a scene, we can either load up one that's already been created. As we can see, this is a scene, as you can see right there. The extension format is SCN, that's a scene. Or we can just create a new scene by clicking File, New Scene. You must take into account the fact that whenever you create something, whether it may be a new scene or a new material, folder, whatever it may be, it will always be created inside the selected folder. So in this case, since I have selected scenes, the new scene will be created within this folder. Everything can be accessed from the Windows System Explorer. So if you ever want to know where everything is being kept, just search the project root folder and you'll find every single folder and file inside there. So we'll begin by creating a scene that's been created, and what we can do right now, well, the only thing we can do is to load the scene. So we'll do just that. So we drag the scene towards the hierarchy window and we drop. These messages are just, as I said, work in progress, and some of them will indeed make sense and some of them don't. In this case, well, just don't mind them for now. But as we can see, some things have changed. For starters, the hierarchy window now shows root, which basically refers to the root entity of the scene. This entity cannot be changed. It's just like a placeholder for the transformations, the matrices, to make sense, basically. But if we open up the dropdown, we can see the entities that have been created by default, in this case a camera and a cube. These two, as you can imagine, make sense because if we open and we rotate, this cube currently is being drawn using the fallback mesh or geometry and the fallback material, just to showcase the user that there is indeed something such as a fallback material and mesh, basically for them to know that it exists and that it can be used to debug things, basically. And if we click on the inspector, we can see the common attributes for every entity, in this case the checkbox to change the visibility or drawability of the entity, the name, the tag, and the layer. These things can be used or will be used when selecting entities or changing their configuration. They can be used basically for searching and grouping purposes, and the layer it will be used for physics and collisions, to create layers. And although some of them are already created, you can't really change the name, and there's only the default for now. But these ones will be user modifiable, basically. And also the components, as you can see, the cube already has the mesh renderer and mesh filter that allow for the mesh and the material to be used by this particular entity, and then the transform that is used by basically every entity that is created. They always come along with the transform component. Then we can also add other components, in this case the sprite renderer, the 2D rigid body, 3D rigid body, light, script, and the box and sphere colliders. Currently some of them haven't been implemented yet, but they will be, and That is particularly the sprite renderer. The rest of the components work. So if we wanted to add, for instance, let's say a Lua script, we'll do that. And as we can see, when we display the contents of the dropdown, there's a slot that can be used to drop a Lua file, a Lua script. So we'll do that. We'll go to scripts, we'll go to test, and we'll drag the Lua script. As we can see, it has been retrieved successfully. And the way we use these scripts is by playing this button here. So we'll do that. And as we can see, the entity is being affected by whatever is being written or has been written in the Lua script. How can we know the contents, or how can we view and edit the contents of these Lua scripts? Well, we'll move on to the scripter window. This window is empty, so you must take care by pressing the or clicking on the script that you want to edit once again. As we can see, it's now editable, and if we click on the window once again, we'll be able to write and type whatever we want. This has been written by default so that the user has a basic understanding of what can be done. And in the C script, there's quite a lot more written. It's working kind of as a tutorial, but it doesn't really work because there's like a lot of things going on. So we've used DA to showcase basically the usability of the scripter as well as the function, or the functionality rather, of the scripting system. Now when it comes to the materials, well, we'll open the material mesh renderer dropdown, and as we can see there's also a slot. So we'll go to materials. In this case I already have these three. The one that I'm going to use is the Lit 3D. So I'll drag the material towards the slot and I'll drop. Once again, since many of these textures are empty, the engine will notify the user that yes, indeed, there are some textures that are empty. They won't be loaded, but we just want to let the user know that that's what's going on. And as we can see, the texture that is configured as an albedo is being used to draw the cube. Now you must take into account that since the configuration relies on meshes being configured properly, although it will be usable, you should also apply a configured or proper, in that sense, a proper object. So I'll drag the proper rather than the, well, instead of the fallback cube. And although both of them work just fine, usually we recommend using proper meshes and proper materials, just for the sake of having a workable environment. So and as you can see, somehow it changed. So it's not like nothing's happening. Like that's why we do recommend changing and using proper meshes and materials. And as you can see, as I said, the material inspector window now holds or displays the configuration of the selected material, in this case the new. Well, what can we do here? Well, it's quite simple. We can just go to textures and drag and drop whatever we feel most comfortable. And also there's the material factor, the roughness factor, tiling, offset, basically everything that makes sense for a material um, to have. Yeah, everything here is configurable. And lastly, what I wanted to show was the lights. So I'll create a light component. Well, not here. I'll create a new entity. As you can see, as I was saying before, the virtual window displays quite a lot of options. I'll use the create empty. This creates a empty entity with a transform, and I'll search for it. There it is. So in this case, it's being created at 0, 0, 0, 0. Well, it makes sense for it to be that way. But I'll apply the light, and the light will be a point. As we can see, it has changed. And if we move, we can see the colors changing. And I also change the light position using the gizmo configuration to change where the light is. I'll also change the object to use a more proper object, such as the cat. There it is. That way the normals and the faces are more like have a bit of a gradient that allows for me to showcase the lights better. So I'll move the lights a bit throughout the screen. As we can see, the lights changing based on the position of the light source. And if I were to change to directional and I were to rotate in the y-axis, you can see the light changes based on the direction of light. And the gizmos also have the ability to change whether they refer to local space or world space. In this case, I'm using local space. So when I rotate things, the gizmo stays at that the direction of the object that is selected. But if I were to change to world space, we can see that now it has changed to a world oriented rotation, and it works just fine. As we can see, it never changes. And if I were to apply the translation, that would work the same. And the scale, as we can see, it works the same. And if I were to check the camera, we can see that we can use either perspective or orthographic, and we can configure the clear color and the clipping planes to determine how far reaching the rendering goes for clipping and stuff. And also I want to show you the cube map, or the skybox. In this case, I will be using a octahedral because of the fact that it only uses one texture. So I'll drop the cube map onto the lighting scene with a scene open, and as we can see, the cube map changed and it's being rendered through the octahedral 3D material. And there's also the cube map with 6 sides, so I'll show you that. Here it is. Then again, forget about the errors. The material is completely void of any texture, so that's why. And we'll configure, well, basically just random textures so that you can see how the material was configured, basically. and the front. Okay. And now if I click on the lighting and I drop the cube map, we can see that the scene is being painted with, yeah. So yeah, that was the showcase of the engine. Well, as you might imagine, every material and scene and anything that's basically configurable, in this case the scene, the material, the textures, the scripts, they are all stored using JSON. There it is. That's the one of the materials being stored using JSON, and this is what it's then loaded into the game engine procedurally. So yeah, I hope you liked my showcase of the 3D engine, and I'll see you soon.